Alright, hello. Today I'm going to ramble on about this sheet right here that you can find online. I believe you can search NYS Roadtest Scoresheet and you'll be able to find it in either the images or some of the websites have a one you can look at. Anyways, let's talk about what this is and how it all works and how it can help you get through a road test. To start with, we have the sheet is everything that involves the New York State road test. So this may not apply to you from any other state other than New York State. Today, most examiners will use a computer-based device. That computer has this exact list inside of it. The receipt that you get, pass or fail, will have a reflection of this printed out for you to see what they marked. And you start at 0 points, and these are the points that you will be assessed for if they judge that these are some of the errors that you could have. And if you max over 30 points, you can fail the test. At 30, they can decide any point above 30, which is the minimum is 5. So if you're at 35, you have not made the road test. So as you can see, there's some leeway available. You can make some mistakes, and you probably will. I work as a driving instructor, and I take people to road tests all the time, and I will very typically see people get 15, 25 points, and 30 points, and still make it and on their way to be a successful, safe, and happy driver. So what we can gander from this list, other than, is it a big cheat sheet to pass the test? Let's answer this question. Is this a cheat sheet to pass the New York State road test? I don't believe it is. In the way that this isn't telling you exactly what to do. I think that what this is a nice guide. For example, if somebody handed you a quiz with a blank sheet of paper and say, write everything you know about the Revolutionary War or about Ferraris, what would you write? It would be pretty random, and how would you know if you passed? What was the criteria? Whereas you'd probably like a test that had some specific questions, so you can kind of see what are these people in that seat really looking for you to do. And you can use this to target a study when you practice driving for yourself, because that's what it's going to take. Your experience and your practice and nothing else is going to pass that road test. So once again, your experience and your time. Now, there's a lot of things you could try to study that would be a waste of your time, and time might be precious for you and most people who are paying for gas, and mom and dad aren't letting you drive very much, or you're new to some place and you don't have anybody to help you out driving. This is a lot of you. Something like this could really help you for the time you do get into a car to know what are you supposed to focus on, what are you supposed to learn. Start here. Every other thing about your driving should branch out from here. Driving on an expressway, being safe during lane changes, driving in bad weather, that can branch out with these safety basics right here. 5 basic categories of driving safely in a city or a village, which is number 1 is where all road tests are. They're not in the suburbs. They're in a city or village where it's important to where these are the most important, and fatal accidents are high with cars into pedestrians, so they really want to see your etiquette, not only with turns and intersections, but turns and intersections and driving in traffic where you might encounter pedestrian related events at any time. That's why they're where they are. Okay, so let's go into some of these categories then. We know what the sheet is. It's not a cheat sheet. It's not going to directly tell you what to do in any kind of way, but it's going to give you a focused study guide on what to study. So of these categories here, we have, let's total them up. We have A, B, C, D, and E. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 categories. So it's feeling easier now. Oh, one other thing I want to say, by the way, remember we're going back to 5 categories here. They may use the paper version of the road test if their computer is for somehow on the fritz, and they'll use this sheet here. You'll get a yellow copy, and it's this exact sheet. So this is how you know that this is what the road test is about. 5 categories here, and A, B, C, D, and E. Now, category we're going to start with. I'm going to show you some of these categories. That what to do is let's narrow this list down to a even more of a focus on what are the 3 top categories, and this is going to be our magic formula today: 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of things that involve 1, 2, 3, involving this jazz right here, and 30 points maximum. And most road test sites will have a 30 mile per hour maximum speed. I know of one that is 35 miles per hour. You'll have to check and see when you're entering the village. Pay attention to your road signs. Know where you are and what the limit is. Google Maps the day before the test can help you find out some information about that as well. So, there's another example of your magic 3, though, appearing. So, let's get some categories out of the way here. Vehicle control. Let's start here at category number 5. Here's my basic thought process. If you don't have good vehicle control, why are you at a road test site? Why are you opting to take a road test site? This isn't your number one. This is going to be your first few hours behind the wheel. Controlling a car is a physical task, but getting through a road test is a mental and physical task. So you've got a lot of work to do adjusting your mental. Your physical work is going to pretty much get in sync with your vehicle, and almost any vehicle that you drive. I would say just about any vehicle that you're going to drive, provided it's in reasonable shape, of course. This is going to be your first 2 hours, and you should be in the clear here. What's the 1, 2, 3 of vehicle control to make this easy, and then we'll bop down these one by one. 1, 2, 3 is basically operating smooth gas, smooth steering, smooth braking. All right, smoothly going forward, smoothly making it stop, smoothly steering. I said smoothly going forward. I should have just said smoothly accelerating. That could be in forward or reverse. And speaking of going into forward and reverse, you can see here that they have poor use of gears at number 29 in an automatic or manual. Most of you are probably going to take it in an automatic, and the general reason that they might mark this number 1 is because you've probably got other errors that you've started with that have given them a not so secure feeling about your driving, and they'll have less ability to tolerate little slip-ups. So a really strong test that's giving a lot of confidence in doing everything else right, some of these things are somewhat subjective, and so you want to stay on the positive side of this tester's subjectivity. But if you're not, or if this is just really obvious, they're going to mark you for poor use of gears. Perhaps you're going from automatic to reverse, or choosing the wrong gear when you're not supposed to. That kind of thing can get this mark off. Overshooting reverse, because when someone is really nervous, they'll put a lot of energy into the shifter, and they'll overshoot the gear reverse going into park and then back into reverse when they're trying to get into their parallel park. And that's just a sign that you haven't really sat around in a car and learned just how much effort it takes to work the shifter and exactly how to press the button and be relaxed about it. Okay, so moving on here. Obviously, you're not going to stall an automatic transmission too much, but poor engine control or acceleration. So if you're jerking the acceleration, or it just feels like you're using it like an on and off switch whenever you need it, these are big points. 10 points off. You're 1/3 of the way of not making it. Poor steering control. In turning, you want to use hand over hand. And steering control, remember, it's not just in the steering wheel. And if you're having trouble with this, don't focus so much on your steering. Focus on trying to drive the car smooth. It usually takes care of itself. Your mind is a powerful device. It will usually tune in with the car while you're not even paying attention, just trying to do a job one way. So, which is smooth and easy. And perhaps steady. So smooth steering control and turning is usually hand over hand steering, not shuffling the wheel. Ask a driving instructor, some school, to explain both of those. Highlight some of these and ask questions in the comments below and use the number here if I explain one and it doesn't make any sense. But I do need to be quick here to try to get through this whole list. So poor steering control, turning. One other thing I wanted to say is that this is also what's affecting this is your use of the gas pedal. As a driver gets confident, they learn just exactly when to press the gas pedal during the turn, not when it's over, but while the car's turning, while the steering wheel is actually just about to come back, so that the steering will return, perhaps in your hands, while you're working it back, but it's mostly coming back on its own. That makes the car feel smooth, but that would have to be explained to you behind the wheel. Straight driving, you can't weave back and forth. You got to be pretty good. And then in maneuvers, you can't be caught forgetting how to steer in the parallel park or in the K-turn. That's something you should have taken some time to memorize before your test, because did you hear what I said? Take some time to memorize. It's all they're looking for you to have done. Someone who has taken some time has memorized. Someone who has memorized has taken the time. The time is an investment. You invested some time. They will invest in you to be the next great driver, pumping money into the economy. So make sure that you've invested your time here. Okay. Delayed or abrupt braking. This one, my friends, is very common for new drivers. To use that brake or still using the brake like an on and off switch. It's progressive. You stop the car by feel mostly. If you're still, for whatever reason, jerking the car, it's not comfortable. It's very obvious. There's probably some tolerance. Don't let what I say make you too nervous about, doing this one little time and being marked off for it. But you can tell when someone is chronic about this and it's not, they're just simply haven't practiced on the brake. You'll get these points. It's pretty hefty because that's a real obvious one that someone they're just on their first 2 hours of driving and trying to get through the test and get on the road. And no one wants anybody with that little of experience driving down the road and having all their first accidents on everybody else's car. So, poor use of gears, poor clutch control, and poor reactions to emergencies. This is possible. I know a road test site with a fire company just down the street, and it's a busy city area that also has police activity in the area from time to time. So there's definitely, and in the summertime, the neighborhoods are everywhere on the road test. There could be people, kids running into the street that were playing in yards and stuff like that. So be ready to react to things, ready to, pull over using your signal and perhaps placing your hand over the horn, ready to beep if needed for whatever's up ahead. Okay, so let's move over now. Let's consider this, though. Like, you got this one. That's like vehicle control. You know that one, right? Because that's why you're trying to get to a road test. So leaving the curb is the next one you can get out of the way. It's important, and that's the top of the list because it's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to do it 3 times during the road test. In the very beginning, leaving the curb. You're going to leave the curb after your parallel park. You're going to leave the curb to begin a K-turn. So rewind that 5 times and listen to it if you want to make sure you remember all those points that are going to be important. Leaving the curb, it's your very first impression, so it's important, but it's simple to get it right, and have practiced it a few times, so let's get it out of the way right now. You can see here they're revealing the simplicity of the entire test. Just learn a 1, 2, 3 about everything. So leaving the curb, the 1, 2, 3 is use your turn signal. See, they don't got it in order, so it's not an exact direct giveaway of, memorize this to And okay, it's obviously not set up so you can just memorize it quick to pass the road test. The way I'm going to give it to you is going to be something easy to memorize, but you're really not going to do it unless you've really taken it to heart that you need to do this every time you leave the curb, and you place an importance on the things I tell you right here. The more important you take it, then that's the easier it is to pass the road test. And here's exactly why. Because you're more likely to pull this off when you're nervous or not thinking about it, thinking about some other distracting topics like getting through the intersection ahead. This is going to happen to you on the road test. I can pretty much guarantee it. And you're going to need to have this thing downloaded, already memorized. The more serious you put on it, the more you think about that accident you could have if you don't do this, even though you don't think you'll get in one. If you can imagine it and you spend some time trying to imagine it, you'll have an easier time pulling this off, making a great first impression. Great first impressions are the ones that get marked off less on all these categories. Bad first impressions get marked off severely on every little thing and have to come back for a second road test. Do you get me? Let's move on from there. Now, that's not 100% the case. These are people, and I can't speak for everyone across New York State. I also can't speak for tests that occur in New York City, where some of these categories may be a little bit more severe than categories here in Western New York, where I've taught driving for half a decade, just over. And we have the experience here where we're probably going to go over. We'll show you that which one is more important probably than that one. Okay, so leaving the curb here, 1, 2, 3, signal, mirror, over the shoulder. Are you ready? Stop the video here, repeat it, say it later on when you're at dinner, right? Say it out loud in the mall. Embarrass your friends. Signal, mirror, over the shoulder. Fails to signal, fails to observe, use the mirror only, fails to check the blind spot. So they have a couple of verbally different ways, semantically different ways of marking you for not using your signal, not checking your mirrors, and not looking over your shoulder. And that is the order, my friends. The first thing you obviously want to do is warn everybody else, get that light flashing so other drivers can do what? Have time to leave you space. Because your whole road test is about space and time. The two hallmarks of the universe. Accidents are always a violation of space and time because two objects can't share the same space at the same time. Okay? Boom. So, 1, 2, 3. Signal, mirror, over the shoulder. Use your turn signal so people have time to give you space. And space to give you time to see them. Okay, so you got your signal blinking. The next thing you're doing is checking your mirrors. Use your mirrors as your 98% tool. So, but not 100%. You have to use it as a 98% tool. You need confidence to leave the curb, and many people start to realize they can get confidence to go on the mirror, and they should, because that's the thing you do before you decide to go. So, you get your confidence from the mirror, but you don't totally go. You might start slipping off the brake, and the car is barely moving, but even before that happens, I would have given one glance over the shoulder, and then as the car's moving, perhaps a second glance over the shoulder just to satisfy every style of every examiner. And on your way out, you'll need to practice that to get that done smoothly. And there's some little tricks you can learn. If a driving school is really good, they can tell you little tricks to how much to use the steering wheel, what's required depending on what's in front of you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so signal, mirror, over the shoulder. Signal, mirror, over the shoulder. If you, what you're trying to do is make one word to tell you all those big things we talked about right there. Because when you get started and you're nervous and you're paying attention to other things and your mind is racing, you need that little voice to come up inside your head and say, hey, remember? And you're like, wait, remember what? And it's only going to be able to say, it's not going to be like blah, 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 blah. And you're going to be like, what? And you're going to stall if you don't set this up as a single word per each one. If you do a single word, then that little voice can pipe up and say, signal, mirror, over the shoulder. And you're like, oh yeah, boom. And guess how you're leaving the curb? Like with your American Express, you never leave home without it. Ba-boom. Okay, it's an old commercial. You probably won't know. what the hell that was about, but let's keep moving here to make this as quick as possible. I know this is rambling on a bit. Turns and intersections, driving in traffic, parking and backing and U-turn are now the big three. Those are your top three. We know 1, 2, 3 for here, 1, 2, 3 for here, and these are the basics. If you can't leave a curb and join traffic properly, why are you at a road test, right? So get these things out of the way. Now we have a big 1, 2, 3. What is the main consistency of your road test? I would say number one, because 85% of all accidents are occurring where? At intersections. This is your big, big, big deal here. Get it? Good. Driving in traffic is going to be a big part of your road test, so this is going to be probably the longest chunk of it is going to be where you can pick up some little sprinkles of goodness here, or not so goodness, right? And then finally, parking back in a U-turn. Let's consider that how many people are hurt every year in a parallel park? How many news reports come in that somebody was hurt in a K-turn? Not many. They come in that people are hurt at intersections and driving down the road all the time. So on that note, perhaps parking back in a U-turn is not the big deal you think it is. It is a big deal. It's going to show that you practiced. It's going to show that you invested your time. It's going to show how much you care about driving by how much you are up at attention and twisting your body and twisting your neck and looking all around and making sure of things before you move the vehicle. And that you can move it smooth and calm while you're looking backwards away from the front of the vehicle, because that reverses your concept of left and right. And once that happens, you need to have practiced that a few times to master the use of the gas or brake. In most cases, with an automatic transmission, you do not need to move your foot away from the brake. That is so important. If you can just manipulate the car, when most of them will, without potholes underneath the tires, most of them will move when you release the brake. Keep your foot over the brake. Keep it somewhat pressing the brake, and that's going to be a lot easier for you. So while you're looking backwards, that way it stays calm and easy, so you get to that way you show that you are using caution. Your foot on the brake is what is causing the use caution feeling, okay? Then you twisting and looking out the back window is the adequately observing part, okay? Now, if you say like, but when I look out the window, I can't see anything, that's why you look around you before you go. Get the wherewithal around your car before you go. Then you can look backwards, and if you've practiced a few times, you can learn to work the steering wheel in at a few key points, and the car will usually park itself while you're looking at just for any obstacles, but you're not looking at exactly where you're parking the car. You're relying on the car to do that based on your steering wheel inputs and proper use of the brake, okay? So this is probably going to be, though, this is big in the way that this is people's weak point on parking back in a U-turn, this one right here. And be clear right here. This one is the one that throws people off, because they let themselves believe that this one is pass or fail, and the whole road test is riding on this, and they know that this is hard to get. And exactly right, your position close or far from the curb. Over the curb, I mean, close is good, but over the curb or too far away from the curb. And that can be hard to get. Everybody knows that that's hard to get. And once again, that's not usually a source of major accidents. So look at the point system. It's only 5 points to get that wrong. If you're too far from the curb, don't worry. It doesn't fail you. And realizing this before you take the test helps you stay calm and focused on what you really need to be focused on, and it's much easier to get through the damn test. Especially if you're someone who's been through it, feels like you know it, but you're still having trouble and you don't know why, and you can't find a qualified driving school to explain it properly. Once in a while, that is the case. It's a high turnover business, and I believe that it can be at times hard to find good help, and then but other times there are definitely some more than qualified people to help you out in your local town or city. Anyways, unable to parallel park properly. So if you completely don't know what you're doing and you're faking it, that's kind of obvious, and you didn't practice, and they mark that big time. Okay, you couldn't make the 3-point turn at all. Once again, why not? Didn't you practice? Didn't you? I mean, at least just try it one time. Most people after the second time are like, oh, okay, that's what it is, not a big deal. But it was just confusing to explain it, so you didn't know what it was before. Do it a few times, cool. If people go there, they didn't realize what they were going to be asked, and they don't know how to do that, and it's heavy duty points, they can still pass if that was the only thing you did wrong. You just, were a good driver, you didn't know what New York State wanted, and you never did one of those before, and it fell apart on the test. Okay, sometimes people can still make it. It has happened before. Excessive space, like we said, only 5 points. Excessive maneuvers, look, it happens. Sometimes there's extra snow, you didn't want to hit it. It's some kind of deal with the road, something, they pulled over and there were mailboxes you didn't know about. So, and you saw them when you were backing up. 5 points there, not a big deal. Roll away. Maybe a chit chat, how you never do that. But don't wait for an answer. It's not a conversation while you're driving. Just sometimes nice to clarify or get it out in the air of the car that, you usually do that a lot better. And boy, today you're just so nervous. So, moving on. Driving in traffic, turns and intersections. Now here are the final big deals, because like I said, most bad stuff, really bad stuff is happening here. So here's a keyword right here. Poor judgment approaching or at intersections. They're giving you a big key right there. Everything you're doing here, mastering this, is all about you mastering how you think about intersections, because it's all about time ticking. Turns and intersections are something you're always approaching. You're not sitting there watching them and able to make nice, calm decisions. Sometimes you have to interpret things and come up with a solution in 3, 2, 1, because you got told to turn right by GPS or your road test examiner, and the light is red. What do? You better know at this time how to make a proper right turn on red, because that's a very big deal, and it's a ticketable offense if you do what? Run the red light, right? And for anybody out there who's been told in your community that it's a free right turn, no such thing, meaning no blasting out into traffic for obvious reasons. If you don't know why that's not an obvious reason, you're a little early on the driving scene. Okay, moving on. Okay, so on that particular one, I've heard before that, it's not like that where I'm from. It's safe to make this right turn on red. And that's due to a setup in the system that is completely different from ours. In ours, it doesn't allow for that type of maneuver because somebody else's light is green if yours is red where you're intending to go. And it's all about this. Stop, look, make sure, maybe look again, and go. Right? Okay. So, and if there's no cars behind you, most road test city or village lights change quick. Wait it out. Wait for green. Psst, psst, wait for green. But if there's some cars behind you, perhaps, that's less likely. And if there were, well, perhaps you sneak up and go. Now, let's talk about sneaking up right here, then go over these 5. Stopping at an intersection is all about one word. Make sure that you equate a stop sign with the word crosswalk, because you're going to the crosswalk. When the stop sign says all way, it's nice because the crosswalks are all the way deep inside the intersection. So they get you right to the point of being able to be quick and concise with your looks, left, right, left, and on your way, because everybody stops at an all-way stop. If you need clarity on that, call a driving school. It's very important. Or you should have paid attention during the movies in the 5-hour class. If you haven't taken your 5-hour class, pay attention for that. Or ask the teacher. Moving on. If you Stop at a crosswalk. Just check quickly left and right for pedestrians. They can be crossing at any time. They might be. That's why your road test is in a city or a village, because hopefully you'll get tested on that, and you can prove right to them, I'm the one that looks, people. I'm the one that's going to get handed a license because I studied and I heard what to do. So, I do work at a driving school, in case you didn't remember that, and that's how I do know all this stuff. This is our daily regiment in teaching people what to do. So you're stopping at crosswalks. So that should take care of stopping. It's smooth and easy, no delayed or abrupt braking, and you're stopping properly at the right place. If there's no crosswalk, remember, they may not be marked. Larger cities or villages do not mark their crosswalks for whatever number of reasons that they have not to do so. So you may just be stopping at a perceived crosswalk. Know how long the hood of your car is. Bring it right up to the crosswalk, but don't enter it. Just make sure the bumper is right up to the point where pedestrians can know you've arrived. You know they've arrived. You're not in their zone if they continue to cross. And bicyclists will have an option to come to a stop, especially young people on bicycles, okay? Especially behind crosswalks that have hedgerows. It's nice to have a little tiny sliver of your car appear so that people can understand when to stop. Then the second thing that happens is once you start moving forward, you're not spending as much time or feeling like, it's taking forever and you need to use the gas pedal. Wrong. If you need to slip forward to see cars, you can do so using the brake safely. Moving on, your speed around curves. A nervous driver hauls ass around curves or just goes really slow to fake the road test out. This is the story of driving your car to the grocery store to get some groceries. How do you drive then? Are you blasting around curves? Well, maybe you need not do that. Are you holding up traffic, going super slow around curves, causing rear-end collisions 5 cars back? No good either. Do you just go around like the flow of traffic, then drive like that on your road test? That's the way to get it right. Balance your speed. Everyday driving is how to just get it from an explanation. Make it like you do it going to church, right? Or your favorite store. Okay. Turning, once again, that's going to be use of your steering wheel, and the speed of your car could be, classified as same thing. Going around the curves. Just be good at it, whatever. Have a driving school explain these if you need to. And observing, as you approach an intersection, your eyes should be scanning the area. As you're going by intersections that you're not turning at, you should be browsing intersections as you go by. The browsing driver is a comfortable, calm, and collective driver, and that's what they want to see. So, signaling, using your turn signal. Using your turn signal. Well, obviously there, right? You're making a turn, you've been told to turn. What is the very first thing you should do? Isn't it helpful if the car in front of you applies the signal so you know which way they're going? Then you know that they're about to do what? Put on the brakes. So you're already there, and there's some safe driving involved. So be sure to signal properly. Fails to stop near the center of an intersection while waiting to make a left-hand turn. Watch a video for this one to explain it quickly. If you've been waiting, you're going to make a left turn at an intersection, and the light is red, and now it's turned green, and you've got some traffic to wait for coming in the other direction. You move into the middle, claim your position, claim your right to make that turn, if in case the light changes again, so at least one car can get through at each cycle. And you may have to play that game very carefully. There may be extra traffic, especially a late afternoon, road test on a Friday might have a pretty significant wait inside an intersection. It may take going when the light is changing to yellow and changing back to red. You do want to make sure that the oncoming car has stopped, but try to judge that car appropriately and have your car moved through that intersection without delaying the cars waiting to go on a green light. Okay? It's going to take a lot of balance, a big balance act to get that one right. Should it happen, but don't sweat it. Just take it like you would driving every day. Would you move into the intersection and make the turn? I think you would if you're driving, like you've got to get somewhere like most people do eventually when they get their license. Okay. Turns short, turns wide. Just learn to make your turns properly. Too short, too wide can get marked. Don't worry, you're nervous. This is one easy thing to do when you're nervous that you would normally do just right. So the points are low. Don't worry if you see them tapping the thing every time you make a turn. Never think about what they're tapping. They may just be changing a page or selecting accept and moving forward. If you begin thinking about what they're typing, what happens is you start thinking about what they might be typing about, and you start reviewing the intersection behind the car. So now your mind has moved not only inside the car, your mind should always be about 5 seconds before the car, processing everything up ahead. You've moved your mind from inside the car where they're marking this computer or clipboard over to behind the car where what you might have done at the last intersection. No wonder you're going to mess up the next thing ahead. Your mind is behind the car. Get it? So keep your mind ahead of the car and don't let yourself get tripped up when you do little things that you know are on the test and they begin marking their device. So be attentive to traffic. You're going by signs, you're going by signals, you're going by lane markings 1, 2, and 3. Signs, signals, lane markings, the makeup of the test. The makeup of the highway transportation system, what guides you around and makes everything your fault, to say the least. Okay, driving in traffic. Not everything, but you know what I mean. You're going to have a hard time blaming the fact that the road drove you off a cliff. When there's usually signs, signals, and lane markings, or else everybody would have driven off a cliff already and found a way to sue. So since that isn't happening everywhere, your chances are low. Okay, whatever I was saying there, disregard. Anyways, driving in traffic. 15 through 24 here. The final thing we got to just discuss here today is driving in traffic. Pretty important, but follow your speed limit, stay in your lane, and keep a nice distance from other cars. So staying in your lane. See here, keep to the right. If you don't keep right, this is a common one for people coming from left-hand drive systems that may inadvertently drive on the wrong side of the road. This is a head-on collision. This is pretty important. Improper lane of traffic can go along with this one. This means maybe perhaps in a turn you didn't keep to the right enough. Improper lane means you've been driving for a little while in the improper lane of traffic or off to the left too far. So this is for small instances and this is for larger instances of driving too far to the left where you should be off to the right, especially on little side streets where it's perhaps not marked. Passing parked cars is a balance. You need to leave space on cars opening the doors. So this is where I advise you, just take one lesson with a driving school to get the right nuance in case if you're failing road tests and that you don't understand why they're telling you you're too close. Okay, so follows too closely. So yeah, obviously leave space. Don't tailgate anybody. Then they're controlling your car. You're likely to get boned on a road test because people drive quirky in villages. Stay away from other cars. All right. Speed excessive for conditions, for the traffic, for the weather, for the road. So that means you were just going over the general speed limit. This is in case, the road was a little inclement. There was some water. Maybe you can, if it's raining on your test, here's where rain is a blessing. Here's where snow could be a blessing. You can drive a little bit what? A little bit for the weather. And if you're asked, it's because, well, the weather's got you just a little bit slower. It doesn't mean go super slow or don't drive unusually, but perhaps you're a few ticks under 30 while you're driving down a little traffic lane here. Don't worry, you're not going to drive for 5 miles. You're probably going to go for about 2 blocks before you have to turn in almost any situation. Maybe 3 blocks. Okay, so traffic, obviously don't gang up on other cars. That would be following too closely or driving an excessive speed in traffic. Oh, too slow impedes the traffic flow. I need some water here, so let me finish this as fast as I can. Too slow impedes the traffic flow. Obviously, you're going too slow. Pretty dangerous. High points. This is a mark of someone who's just trying to fake a road test, who hasn't really learned to drive yet, thinks that they'll just get in there and go really slow and learn later. Not good. Fails to yield the right of way to a pedestrian or other. There may be pedestrians on your test. That's why they're all in cities or villages. Be ready to understand when you need to yield the right of way. Pedestrians always have the right of way. So, be ready. They may be, May need to make some eye-to-eye contact if one surprises you at some corner or something. Not so likely, but depends on the day, depends on how busy it is. Okay, poor judgment in traffic. Well, there you go. I mean, you always have to make judgments in traffic. Hey, should I go? Should I not go here? Based on, like, it's an all-way stop and you have to judge who arrived first, and two cars rolled up at nearly the same time. Do you understand how to make eye contact, how to just make a good judgment if you should take initiative to go or if you should just hang back and allow them time to go? And if you do decide to hang back, do you stay hung back until they go, or do you start having a confused bunch of judgments with other cars? Or, did you change lanes suddenly? And speaking of that, when changing lanes, fails to observe, signal, or use caution. So obviously you have to look, you have to signal and use caution, but they've got it reversed so you're not getting exactly what they want you to do. When told to change lanes, people need to know. The number one thing is information. Your information is through your signal. So put the signal on first, then start looking. You're checking your mirrors, you're checking over your shoulder, you're checking your mirrors, you're checking over your shoulder. By that time, your signal's been on usually enough that other cars have the proper alert. They may be hanging back to give you room to go. They may be speeding up to hope you understand to get behind them because they're in some kind of hurry. That's what you're observing for. Maniacs or cool people. Who do you have? And then when the car starts moving, does the driver know to basically just look and let the car drift into the lane by itself? You usually don't have to barely steer through a lane change, to avoid the car feeling jerky or swervy or anything. Anticipate the actions of pedestrians and others. Someone is walking toward the street. Make sure that you're on, your foot's lifting off the gas pedal. Some kids are playing in the front yard and it looks a little wild and they could start running toward the street as you're approaching. They want to look that down and see that not only is the car slowing, feeling like it's easing back a little bit, but your foot's moving over toward the brake if it looks a little bit severe. They're definitely checking for that. Fails to anticipate potential hazards, as the last one we'll review here. Fails to anticipate potential hazards. That means a garbage can is just tipped over and starts rolling toward the street as you're driving toward it. Are you slowing down, putting on the brake? I mean, this thing is going to roll out in front of you if it keeps going. Perhaps it suddenly stops, but you don't know if it is. It looks like some kid is just hopped on his bicycle for the first time. Mom and dad gave him a shove down the driveway, and now he's headed toward the road, and you don't know if he can stop. What are you doing to mitigate the situation? Are you looking like you're anticipating that there's going to be a potential hazard, or are you just sailing on by like, oh, that was what happened? Sorry, officer, I had no idea. So they're looking for someone who's understanding, accidents if it should happen. You get lucky road tests where none of this stuff even barely happens. You get cursed road tests where you're just battling hell out there, and every one of these is up to get you. So good luck out there in your road tests. I hope this helped you. I know a lot of you search YouTube. Night before the road test, went all through the house. Your heart is beating. And I don't know what rhymes with mouse other than house. Okay, so aside from being rambly and stupid here, I hope this helped you get through your road test. And if you have any questions, once again, leave them below so we can make a specific video based on your questions. Please like, please subscribe. I'd love some initial subscribers here. And we'll go from there. Have a great day.